The Iconoclast by Ginzberg. But Terah could not be convinced, and in reply to Abraham's question, who the God was that had created heaven and earth and the children of men, he took him to the hall wherein stood 12 great idols and a large number of little idols. And pointing to them he said, Here are they who have made all thou seest on earth, they who have created also me and thee and all men on the earth. And he bowed down before his gods and left the hall with his son. Abraham went thence to his mother, and he spoke to her, saying, Behold, my father has shown those unto me who made heaven and earth and all the sons of men. Now therefore hasten and fetch a kid from the flock, and make of it savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's gods. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. His mother did according to his request, but when Abraham brought the offering to the gods, he saw that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them stretched forth his hand to eat. Abraham mocked them and said, Surely the savory meat that I prepared doth not please you, or perhaps it is too little for you. Therefore I will prepare fresh savory meat tomorrow, better and more plentiful than this, that I may see what cometh therefrom. But the gods remained mute, and without motion before the second offering of excellent savory meat as before the first offering. And the Spirit of God came over Abraham, and he cried out and said, Woe unto my father and his wicked generation, whose hearts are all inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which cannot eat nor smell nor hear nor speak, which have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs without motion. Abraham then took a hatchet in his hand, and broke all his father's gods, and when he had done breaking them, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the biggest god among them all, and he went out. Terah, having heard the crash of the hatchet on the stone, ran to the room of the idols, and he reached it at the moment when Abraham was leaving it. And when he saw what had happened, he hastened after Abraham, and he said to him, What is this mischief thou hast done to my gods? Abraham answered, I set savory meat before them, and when I came nigh unto them, that they might eat, they all stretched out their hands to take of the meat, before the big one had put forth his hand to eat. This one, enraged against them on account of their behavior, took the hatchet and broke them all, and behold, the hatchet is yet in his hands, as thou mayest see. Then Terah turned in wrath upon Abraham, and he said, Thou speakest lies unto me. Is there spirit, soul, or power in these gods to do all thou hast told me? Are they not wood and stone, and have I not myself made them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in the hand of the big god, and thou sayest, He smote them all. Abraham answered his father and said, How then canst thou serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can these idols in which thou trustest deliver thee? Can they hear thy prayers when thou callest upon them? After having spoken these and similar words, admonishing his father to mend his ways and refrain from worshipping idols, he leapt up before Terah, took the hatchet from the big idol, broke it therewith, and ran away. Terah hastened to Nimrod, bowed down before him, and besought him to hear his story about his son who had been born to him 50 years back, and how he had done to his gods, and how he had spoken. Now therefore, my lord and king, he said, send for him that he may come before thee, and do thou judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. When Abraham was brought before the king, he told him the same story as he had told Terah, about the big god who broke the smaller ones. But the king replied, Idols do neither speak, nor eat, nor move. Then Abraham reproached him for worshipping gods that can do nothing, and admonished him to serve the God of the universe. His last words were, If thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words, to cause thee to forsake thy evil ways and serve the eternal God, then wilt thou die in shame in the latter days, thou, thy people, and all that are connected with thee, who hear thy words and walk in thy evil ways. The king ordered Abraham to be put into prison, and at the end of 10 days he caused all the princes and great men of the realm to appear before him, and to them he put the case of Abraham. Their verdict was that he should be burnt, and accordingly the king had a fire prepared for 3 days and 3 nights in his furnace at Casdim, and Abraham was to be carried thither from prison to be burnt. All the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, and the women and the children besides, came to see what would be done with Abraham. And when he was brought forth, the astrologers recognized him, and they said to the king, Surely this is the man whom we knew as a child, at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars. Behold, his father did transgress thy command, and he made a mockery of thee, for he did bring thee another child, and him didst thou kill. Terah was greatly terrified, for he was afraid of the king's wrath, and he admitted that he had deceived the king. And when the king said, Tell me who advised thee to do this. Hide not, and thou shalt not die, he falsely accused Haran, who had been 32 years old at the time of Abraham's birth, of having advised him to deceive the king. At the command of the king, Abraham and Haran, stripped of all their clothes except their hosen, and their hands and feet bound with linen cords, were cast into the furnace. Haran, because his heart was not perfect with the Lord, perished in the fire, and also the men who cast them into the furnace were burnt by the flames which leapt out over them, and Abraham alone was saved by the Lord, and he was not burnt, though the cords with which he was bound were consumed. For 3 days and 3 nights Abraham walked in the midst of the fire, and all the servants of the king came and told him, Behold, we have seen Abraham walking about in the midst of the fire. 50. At first the king would not believe them, but when some of his faithful princes corroborated the words of his servants, he rose up and went to see for himself. He then commanded his servants to take Abraham from the fire, but they could not, because the flames leapt toward them from the furnace, and when they tried again, at the king's command, to approach the furnace, the flames shot out and burnt their faces, so that 8 of their number died. The king then called unto Abraham and said, O servant of the God who is in heaven, go forth from the midst of the fire, and come hither and stand before me. And Abraham came and stood before the king. And the king spoke to Abraham and said, How cometh it that thou wast not burnt in the fire? And Abraham made answer, The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who hath all things in his power, he did deliver me from the fire into which thou didst cast me. 51.